District 2,
Present.
District 3,
I'm present. On my way up.
oh, District 4,
Present.
District 5,
Present.
District 6,
Present.
District 7, District 8,
Present.
District 9, District 10,
Present.
District 11,
Present.
District 12, District 13, District 14, District 15.
I'm here.
Thank you. You have quorum, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Commissioners. Today is Thursday, June 6, 2024, 9:03 a.m. Welcome to the briefing of the Dallas City Planning Commission. As always, Commissioners, this is just a time for the body to ask questions of staff. We'll keep all our comments to the hearing this afternoon. Before we get started, I would like to recognize Ms. Liu. Good morning, Commissioners, our new director for the Planning and Urban Design Department. We all look very much forward to working with you and your leadership, and you came in at just the right time. Nothing is happening right now. Commissioners, we're going to start with the development plans. We have two on the consent agenda. Those we can brief by request. Well, actually, let's take a step back. We do have the Forward Dallas, the latest draft that was released last night. I want to thank staff for all the hard work and the very heavy lifting that I know happened. And I know some technical issues on top of everything. And that is not going to be briefed today, Commissioners, but staff is here if anyone has a quick question for them. Otherwise, we're going to take a deep dive on the 17th. Please, Commissioner Forsyth.
Since the plan was just released last night and we have less than 2 weeks to review the new version of the plan, it would seem to me that it would be appropriate for the commission to give members of the commission as well as the public more time to be able to review the plan before we have this in-depth meeting. I think that at least 3 weeks would be appropriate, and I would like to request the chair to consider moving the hearing from June 17th to the last week of June, like the 27th of June.
Duly noted. At this time, we're going to keep it on the 17th. We've been planning this all along. We've noticed it, and considering how difficult it is to get 8 or 9 of us at the same place at the same time, I think we're just going to keep it there for now. But I appreciate the recommendation, Commissioner. As Commissioner Carpenter just stated, we can always add an additional meeting after that. In fact, I don't see us ending the process on the 17th. It's just too much to discuss, and it's going to be a long day. I'm sure there's going to be lots of folks, lots of public speakers, and so we're going to keep it moving as scheduled.
So the process then on the 17th, you will allow for public speakers in the morning?
Absolutely. We're going to start out with public speakers, and hopefully we'll get to our work in the afternoon.
Will folks be able to speak remotely, virtually?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Completely open. Just, as always, per our rules for the folks who want to speak remotely, please make sure you register. You don't have to register if you want to come in person.
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Blair.
Thank you. I would like to make an announcement today. It's a very special day for one of our commissioners. Commissioner Chernock is having a birthday today.
Oh, wow. Well, happy birthday. My present to you, Commissioner, is that I'm not going to sing happy birthday. Might just end the meeting right there.
Can we bring back Commissioner Stannard for some from song and dance?
Any other questions, Commissioners, before we move on? Please, Commissioner Forsyth.
So there is an opportunity to ask questions of staff?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I did want to ask, at the last presentation, when staff gave their presentation, and we reviewed the elements of the plan that the staff wanted to change, or based on the public feedback that they had received at the town halls, I was concerned because of the fact that that presentation did not address two important areas that I feel need to be made, or changes that need to be made in the plan. One of the areas that the staff addressed at the town hall meetings was the fact that they were not targeting single-family neighborhoods with this increased density, that the missing middle housing would not be placed in the middle of a single-family neighborhood, but that it would be placed along the major transportation corridors. And I did not hear that item brought up during the last meeting. Also, there was a promise to protect historic districts, conservation districts, neighborhood stabilization overlay districts, and planned development districts too. And again, that was left out of the presentation at the last meeting. So I'm concerned that these two important elements are, were not addressed by the staff, or not brought to the attention of this body. And I want to make sure that those commitments that have been made to the public, that we're really serious, that we're going to protect single-family neighborhoods, and we're not going to be targeting them with duplexes and triplexes and quadplexes being placed in the middle of our streets in single-family neighborhoods. And also that we're going to protect the historic districts, the conservation districts, and the planned development districts and the NSOs. And that was the question that I asked, that I would like to ask of staff.
Lawrence Agu, Chief Planner, Planning Urban Design. So just to clarify a few things you mentioned, the presentation that we provided last time we met with you all was to clarify some key issues that we wanted direction on. Some of the other issues that you mentioned in terms of the language regarding single-family communities, those were already confirmed in terms of how we'd address those in the plan. And if you are able to read the plan that was issued last night, you'll see how that's applied to the document. So in terms of what we discussed, the presentation wasn't a, this is what we're going to do. It was more a CPC, please provide direction on which way to go on these key items. There were 7 items that we went over, and those were what we discussed with that last presentation. So with that presentation and the last few meetings that we had, the updated plan document should address all that you just mentioned, sir.
And unfortunately, we didn't get that plan until 11 o'clock last night, so I don't think anyone's had a chance to read it. And so you're indicating to me that these concerns that were addressed at the town hall meetings, that those are being addressed in the new version of the plan.
Yes, sir.
Great. I'll look forward to reading that. Thank you.
Some good adjustments in there. Any other questions, Commissioners? Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, sir. The mic is on. Commissioners, again, back to items numbers 2 and 3. Do we have anyone that wants either of those briefed? So Commissioner Hampton is shaking her head no. Okay, so then.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Of course. Good morning to you. Commissioners, let's go to our zoning consent agenda. At this point, cases 4, 6, and 7 have come off consent. So the consent agenda consists of items numbers 5, 8, 9, and 10. We'll begin with case number 4. Mr. Pepe, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Okay. This is Z212357. And it's located North Oak Cliff. And it's an application for one, a new sub-district for WMU8 walkable mixed-use district uses, and two, the removal of a shopfront overlay on a portion, and three, the termination of a D liquor control overlay on a property zone, sub-district E within Plan Development District number 468, the Oak Cliff Gateway Special Purpose District with an SH shopfront overlay and a D liquor control overlay. It's about 1.67 acre.
We can't hear you, Michael.
Let me give this a try. I can bring it a little closer. All good? The purpose of the request is to allow modified development standards primarily related to permitted uses, setbacks, parking, and form district standards to develop residential and live-work uses. And here's the property as it exists today. It's made up of several parcels, but it does constitute an entire block. And so, as it exists today, it has that shopfront overlay on the whole portion. There's single family and a medical clinic to the north. There's blended residential to the east, where there's single family, duplex, multifamily all next to each other. And then there's multifamily to the south. There's multifamily to the west. There's a hotel to the west across Zhang. And they're currently that subdistrict E within the PD. That PD in its current form was made in 2015, or at least the most recent major amendments to it. And that existing MU8 entitles it to the use, height, and density that they need. They'd actually be building under that, I understand. But they have that use, but really what they're here for is shopfront overlay. Shopfront overlay applies to the whole property and dictates that the whole property must be mixed-use shopfront development and dictates the type of uses. Means that they can't put ground floor residential on any of it at this time. So they're proposing a new sub-district based on the existing zoning, but adds live-work use, which is actually a use in the PD already from other sub-districts. The nearby sub-district can be used to meet some of the shopfront overlay standards or requirements. And the site has those development standards WMU8. It's not constitute approval of additional height or density, or does it constitute approval of the demolition of any structures on the site? The applicant proposes only to modify the shopfront overlay, modify the shopfront only to include the western frontage of the site along Zhang. They removed the D overlay on the entire site, and the sub-district would then specify that Zhang and Beckley are primary streets. And so just in the existing definition, live work is this definition, but it basically allows a tenant of a space to occupy it with residential and office retail. It implies a certain degree of built out, like a shop front, and it's a non-residential use under the PD. And that SAH prohibits residential uses on the ground story facade. And the request to reduce the SH, I hope it's visible to a degree on this slide, that they're reducing it from the entire site back to the left frontage, the west frontage, meaning Zhang. And then those green frontages per the PD would remain primary streets, the east and west along Zhang and Beckley. Zhang frontage would remain shop front. Just Subdistrict M did something similar. It added live work. It's not a one-for-one comparison what they're doing, but they added live work as a use there, and then other parcels on the block to the south took out some of the shopfront overlay. So as we go around the site, here's 5th Street looking south. We'll move around. This is on Zhang, the existing multifamily office that exists today. Looking north and looking west from Beckley, we just did a full lap of the site. There's a lot of grade. definitely on the site, the northeast corner being the lowest part. As I look north, there's a doctor's office. That's a multifamily and hotel across Beckley, or excuse me, across Zhang. So the home across 5th Street. That looks west at that multifamily. And there's more multifamily to the southwest. It's south. That's the sub-district M property across 6th Street. And that's the exit to the property on 6th Street. Beckley and 6th. Beckley. And that's across, that's the multifamily across, across Beckley. And that's full walk around the site. So as for the development plan, this looks unreadable for y'all's purposes. A little better, hopefully. Point being, Article 13 has a buildable area that's between 5 feet and 10 feet, or 15 feet from the property line. So there's a buildable area 10 feet. It's what you see in the hatched around the perimeter of the site. Then you see shopfront overlay that they intend to maintain on the western frontage of the site. It's the 30 feet of the western frontage, labeled SH7. And then the proposed street designations, they modify how street designations work. Usually it's the longest side. In this case, the northern and southern appear to be the longest frontages by just a little bit. But in working with them, it basically the pattern of the surrounding area kind of dictates that, yes, this block has a smaller frontage on those, but as you go through the whole area, north to south is the pattern of primary streets, and it helps reinforce that corridor that you do between the hospital up north and Bishop Arts to the south. So we modified that specifically in the code that the primary streets are Beckley and Zhang. I did show the adjacent blocks just to kind of clarify how that works. These are the development standards for WMU. It's a little different between the development types, so I have those here. I won't drill down on anything specific, but we have it in case we have questions. But with that, staff recommendation is 1, approval of the new sub-district for WMU mixed-use district uses, WMU 8, walkable mixed-use district uses, subject to a development plan and conditions. 2, approval of a removal of a shopfront overlay on a portion, and 3, approval of a termination of a DE liquor control overlay.
Just me, or you having trouble understanding?
Thank you, sir. Questions, commissioners? Commissioner Hall.
Mr. Pepe, looking at your photographs, walking around, the neighborhood doesn't look anything about what I envision when we talk about shop front. It looks like a bunch of older homes and a blend of other things, but maybe have been converted to businesses.
Yeah, it's so. Of course, when I'd imagine that, well, certainly the structures on the site are older than the shop front overlay, older than the Article 13 zoning, older than the PD. So a lot of them have residential uses, some of them have office uses. So I would say some of them are office, some are multifamily. And so I wouldn't say that the majority of them are businesses at this time, because the zoning in place doesn't impel them to be businesses, because they probably, well, the use would be allowed. I think we talked about this talked about downtown Elmwood. You know, they're not non-conforming uses. They probably would be considered non-conforming structures to the shop front overlay requirements, the Article 13 requirements. So those uses are still allowed in their old buildings, but I wouldn't say that the majority of them are businesses. They're either maybe some extant multifamily, or they're vacant at this time. This one, I saw had a CO for an office, which is why I pulled it over, but I don't know if that's still operating.
What's going to happen if this, is there going to be demolition and new things built, or are these things just going to be repurposed, or?
My understanding is it's going to be almost entirely demolition and reconstruction.
Okay.
Of the block. Mm-hmm.
So I'll look forward to seeing the presentation this afternoon then. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Chernock.
I have a question on regarding the live work. You showed a definition. If you could bring that back. So on the Live Works, does code enforcement, are they the ones that are enforcing that? And exactly how does the process go with building inspection when the CO is pulled for those?
Initially, they would have to demonstrate that their live work to permitting, so they come for permitting.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, just maybe slower and louder?
Understood. It sounds really loud right where I'm standing. There must be some kind of speaker going right straight down on me. They need to go in for permitting and demonstrate, what uses are where in their building. They're Article 13, so they need to build out the development standards in accordance with the zoning, with shopfront overlay, and then as they're getting permitting review, need to demonstrate where their uses are. They get a CO for the building. Then, as they go on in time, live work in the shopfront overlay would be a permitted use. Residential would not be permitted on the ground floor in the shopfront overlay. So yes, code enforcement or code compliance would be potentially responsible for enforcing or confirming that there's a non-residential use on the ground floor over time, but initially that confirmation has made it permitting.
Okay.
Vice Chair Rubin, Commissioner Carpenter, then Commissioner Wheeler.
Yeah, and let me start off by saying I'm having iPad issues this morning, so I apologize that I don't have the docket up in front of me. My understanding is that the shop front overlay is sort of a nudge to get actual mixed uses on the ground by prohibiting residential but requiring other sort of street activating uses. Is that a fair description?
Yes.
Okay.
It mandates that you have to use the mixed use shopfront, or you have to use the shopfront style of development, step one. And step two is when you're in that development type, you have to put non-residential uses on the ground floor. So it prohibits those on the ground floor in the area with the hope of encouraging, nudging towards retail uses or things like that.
Okay, and we see some fairly dense, elsewhere in the city, some fairly dense, residential, multifamily districts. I can think of like Henderson, where there really aren't active ground floor uses. It's a lot of just residences that enter onto the street. So is the shopfront overlay sort of to nudge away from that and get more active, walkable, walker-friendly ground floor?
Yes.
So I'm trying to think through the trade-offs is going from a shopfront overlay to basically allowing live work units. Again, it couldn't just be straight residential units on the ground floor along these two streets, right?
No, they have to, well, in the portion that remains shopfront, which is the west frontage, they need to demonstrate at permitting and over time through code compliance that they are live work units. And that then they have to trigger the definition that we just saw, where they could maintain an office use, they could maintain a small retail personal service type use. Those need to be maintained. That applies only in the shopfront overlay that they're maintaining, which, as I said, is the western frontage. And it is removed from the other frontages. So they could put true residential on the other three frontages.
Okay.
As proposed.
And I guess let's just talk about Beckley for a second, where they could put straight residential. What is staff's rationale for supporting that change from removing the shopfront overlay along Beckley?
Along Beckley? Yeah, I mean, Beckley definitely has more of a residential character when you go down Beckley. You're going from north to the south, especially the west side of the street. That said, I think that retail and personal service uses are compatible with residential uses when they're in a proper format. So it's maybe not necessarily a consistency argument, but if you're going to have a transition from one side to another, that would be the side to have it transition on. And frankly, as a planner, have some caution about mandating retail uses on a ground floor. I'm just going to say that. I understand that the live work will act as something of a transition, potentially allow final build out over time, especially when we need housing. We're talking about prohibiting housing on the ground floor. As a planner, I am wary of mandating retail uses, even if we're good intentions throughout.
Yeah.
But I do think if there's a place to maintain it, Zhang is the one.
Okay. Yeah, there seem to be some interesting trade-offs here in the decision that we're being asked to make. And I think following up along with Commissioner Chernock's question, are we going to actually be assured live work units along Zhang, or, in practicality, are those just going to become residential units without the work component? How do we, are we just putting our faith in code compliance here to have it?
Well, they need to build out under shopfront style. They need to build them out to look like a shopfront with shopfront windows on Zhang, where they build those live work units. So it would look a little different than would maybe a residential frontage. And they have to have a degree of transparency as well with that. They have to have very frequent entrances for those kinds of things. So if they don't, I will say yes, if we're assuming that maybe they'll only do residential for, they don't do a true live work or something like that, I have faith they'll build it out how they're required to by permitting. So it will have that look about it. And so the only place we can say a good comparison is to the south, and the aesthetics of that aside, you go on Zhang, there do appear to be businesses in there. At least that's the appearance, because they do have signs, or if they say we're leasing for a business or something like that on the property to the south. Some of them have signs that indicate businesses or things like that. That was the main tip-off from observation when you're there. And they are, because of the development standards, close to the street, easily accessible because of those windows and doors. So they have to build it out like that, and there is some degree of model to the south as how it does exist or play out, but I know there may be other interpretations how that's going.
And remind me, how long has this PD been around, and how long has it been in this current format with the shopfront overlay?
I didn't record how long the whole PD has been around, but this orientation of using WMU, using shopfront, has been since 2015.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes, Mr. Pepe. My question has to do with, I guess, a little bit of disconnect between the development plan that's been submitted and what's required in the PD, because the development plan says very specifically that 8 to 10,000 square feet of retail are required. It's in the site table. But there's nothing in the PD language that says retail is required. And in fact, the purpose of the changes to the PD would be to allow live work units to satisfy that shopfront overlay requirement. So assuming that the shopfront overlay on Zhang is satisfied by live work, would a cumulative total of 8 to 10,000 square feet of retail in those live work units satisfy that development plan, or would a separate development plan have to be submitted down the road if they decide to go the live work route?
I don't find the development plan is requiring 8,000 square foot of retail.
It says minimum and maximum.
On the development plan?
Yeah, in the table.
It's
That's
not,
what I read it.
yeah, that would be, it's not expressly, excuse me, I'm trying to find it, zoom in. It's not expressly required by the PD, so I don't see that as truly required. But they have to fulfill their shopfront overlay on Zhang, and one way of doing it, not the only way of doing it, is through live work unit, but it could be other retail. The whole property is entitled to a ground floor retail at this time, but not impelled if this is approved as proposed.
Okay, and just to clarify a little bit, even though the PD is being amended to allow live work to satisfy the shopfront overlay requirement, the ground floor has to meet the requirements for the built form of a shopfront overlay. They're not being exempted from that.
On Zhang?
On Zhang, yes.
On Zhang. Has to do all of the spatial requirements of Zhang, or of shopfront overlay on
The
Zhang.
floor plate, the transparencies, the windows, the entrances, all of that.
All of those things. And that's sort of what I was getting at to
Right.
Commissioner Rubin's question, was that they may plan to occupy them with live work uses. The flexibility of whether that's residential or retail, I would imagine is somewhat flexible, but the built form there has to comply with the SH overlay.
Okay. Yeah. Well, while I understand the intent of the requested changes, I just still have a little concern about how that box requiring a certain amount of retail is going to be interpreted when it gets to permitting. So, thank you.
Understood. Thank you.
Commissioner Wheeler.
I'm going to ask you a question about it, but in a way, well, I have to ask you a question. So I actually have a live work. My actual homestead is a live work. So I kind of understand it a little bit more. So is it true that in the live work, there's only one dwelling that can be on site?
Well, this one on site, well, so these are, in this case, these are leased spaces within a multifamily building. So it's not like the broader code or other places where it's one small business and one small dwelling that goes with it. It's not like that. They're like, if there was, they're like multifamily units that are a hybrid of commercial finished out space and residential. So they can have multiple on a site in this definition.
So how would the live work apply then? If the live work in code says that a live work can only have one dwelling on the property, and the dwelling has to be, the live work can be on the lower floor. The dwelling and the live work both can be on one level, but the work part must be 50% or more of the actual property than the actual live part.
What I'll say is that we don't lean on the broader code definition of live work. This is a definition of live work that is unique to this PD, and so it likely is interpreted differently as anywhere else you might be familiar with. This is I thought the broader code called it live unit or something like that, but this is a specific use for this PD. It was actually created by the district to the south originally and then included in this. So my understanding, because it's not leaning on the broader definition in code, it's not subject to those.
So is the definition going to be clear in this particular PD? And the only reason why is PD 595 has a live work unit, and it reads out of the general code what live work is. So because development services might interpret it differently when it comes to live work, and then exclude it because they're going to be looking at so is in this PD, is the definition going to be defined enough where development services will not take the broader code?
Yes, I mean, that wasn't the case in the property to the south. They're supposed to put ground floor live work units on the property to the south, for example. So my understanding is, in development services hasn't used that broader definition or the PD 595 definition just because this one is unique to this one. It overrides or subverts any other broader code one, and it has been used to the south.
And so there is in code where they will not make the mistake because, again, development services often interprets it based off of what the broader is instead of so that it is different, a definition in there. And we know that we have to define, definitely in these PDs, that it is defined on what that broader, it is not, it makes way for the use in this particular PD that might not in the broader.
Yeah, it's unique to this one, and it's been used in this district to this end without those limitations you spoke of from broader code.
Because I got a PD soon as they introduced live work. I had that CO soon as they were able to put it in South Dallas for me to have a live work unit.
Thank you.
Commissioner Charnock, followed by Commissioner Blair.
On the shopfront overlay, there's a depth requirement of those units of 30 feet, or no?
The shopfront overlay as proposed includes 30 feet of depth. So that should mandate that development type for at least that deep. You can do multiple development type. You can do multiple Article 13 development types within one building site, but the 30-foot extent of it, to me, would imply that they'd have to have not only that depth, but potentially more further back, because you got to draw the line on your development type somewhere when they submit a site plan to Development Services for Article 13, proving where their development types begin and end.
So I'm not sure I understood the answer. In the shopfront overlay, is it mandated that they have a 30-foot depth on their shopfront?
I need to double check that for you.
Okay. And what I'm trying to get at is will that it's kind of my next question. The live work is just being added as a use. So it's on all three sides of 5th, 6th, and Zhang, but not Beckley. So it's not that shopfront is going away, it's just being added as a use. So if the developer wanted to do a commercial space that would be allowed by normal shopfront, that's an option. It's just live work is also an additional option.
Yes.
I mean, it's presumed that they would use live work if they're asking for it on all sides, but it doesn't mean they would necessarily do live work. They may do a combination of live work, they may do some retail spaces. It's just another option.
Correct.
Okay, I want to be clear on that.
Yes. Yep.
And in the live work, that depth of the unit will still be required. Can you look that up too when you are checking?
I will. I'll need a minute though.
Right. And what I'm trying to get at is, to the extent possible, will the shell remain commercial ready? Should at some point in the future, the highest and best use of those ground floor units, when the market dictates that commercial is viable, they will be able to be converted relatively easily.
Yes, so I will say, I'll have to look up the depth or get an interpretation on that, but the floor plate heights, those still apply in the shop front. Then the windows, the built form of those portions that are in shop front still have to do all of those spatial things.
Right, and it is true that the WMU is what dictates the minimum 15-foot plate height. It's not the shop front overlay.
It's the development type.
It's the development type?
Yeah. So let's start. Our district is WMU. There's a whole bunch of development types that are allowed in there. But then we put a shop front on top of it that dictates that you have to do mixed use shop front where that shop front overlay exists. And so that means, okay, the western portion of the building or the western building has to be mixed use shop front development type. And when you build a mixed use shop front development type, you have to have a certain floor plate and other finishes and other uses in it. It's
So
tricky.
I understand. So it's the mixed use that dictates the plate height. Like if they could also do townhomes there, like say there's a different project that comes through. I understand that a development type could be townhome stacked. It could be an apartment, it could be a mixed use, but when there's a mixed use project there, that ground floor plate height has to be 15 feet minimum, maximum of 30, I believe.
That is correct. And it's mandated that they have to do mixed use development type where the shop front exists.
Right.
Any other questions, commissioners, on this item? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Pepe.
I was just going to say, I was thankful that y'all did downtown Elmwood before this one. It gave me, it gave us all, I think, a little footing to start with.
Mr. Bate. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is case Z223-257. I'm Martin Bate. This is an application for a, sorry, I'm just trying to move this window here away from me. This is an application for an amendment to and expansion of Plan Development District number 1049 on property zoned PD number 1049 and IR Industrial Research District and an IM Industrial Manufacturing District. It is located on the south line of Singleton Boulevard at the terminus of Navarro Street and on the east line of Vilbig Road south of Duluth Street. It is approximately 32.08 acres in size. It's located here in West Dallas. Here we see the aerial map showing both the existing, the extent of the PD and then the proposed addition. So this dotted area here, that is where the current boundaries are. If the amendment, the expansion were approved, then it would expand out to include this corner here. Here's the existing zoning map showing what is around the site. The subject site is still undeveloped. The area to the northwest where they're hoping to expand includes vehicle display sales and service and a restaurant use. To the west is a private school. There's single family as well, and then multifamily and single family to the east. And then industrial uses mainly for a I believe it's BNSF railway line down south. So some background, PD 1049, it was established by City Council on April 14th of 2021. The area of the request is currently undeveloped except for the property in the IR and IM districts as mentioned. The applicant is requesting 5 amendments of the PD conditions and an expansion of those boundaries. And the applicant has also made a very small amendment to the conceptual plan just to clarify some information in there. The first amendment for the PD is for the height limits, permitting the enclosed stairwells to be within 12 feet, within the 12-foot allowance for structural and architectural overruns. So these conditions, they always say, you know, this is the max height except for a few architectural type features. Those can be allowed to go up to 12 feet over. This is to allow that for enclosed stairwells, again, only for parking structures. The next amendment is to adjust the allowable floor area ratio from 1.9 to 2.2. The third is to allow commercial amusement inside as a permitted use within phase 1 of the property, and more specifically, it is limited to a bowling alley. Next amendment is allowing a maximum height of 85 feet for structures within phase 1. And the fifth amendment is adjusting hours of operation for the artificial swimming lagoon. Finally, the conceptual plan has been amended to show the expanded area, and there's also a small note that's included regarding phase 1 or the extent of phase 1 to match the PD text. Some site photos just to add some color to this. There's the view on Singleton Boulevard looking south, and then looking southeast, then the southwest, looking north away from the site, northwest, west, and there you can see some of those uses that are part of the area to be expanded into. Then on Singleton looking north to the northeast. Then going down Duluth, this is on Duluth looking east, so this is where Duluth dead ends, and then beyond those trees is where the subject site is. Then looking west away from the subject site on Duluth. Then on the southeast corner of Vilbig and Singleton looking east. Looking north. Looking northwest, and looking west. Here's the existing conceptual plan. As you can see, it does not include those lots to the northwest. And then the proposed conceptual plan, the main thing is it just expands to include that new property. And there's a note just explaining how the phasing for this property will work. In terms of the changes to the development standards, here we have some of them highlighted. The FAR goes up from 1.9 to 2.2. The height was one of the main changes, where originally the way the height limitation was described was that for structures of 50 feet or greater frontage along Singleton Boulevard, their max height could be 85 feet. You would also have 85 feet for one 7-story parking garage in phase 1, and then 65 feet for all other structures. With the change to the amendment to the PD, the height limit would simply be 85 feet for structures in phase 1, as well as the enclosed stairwell for the parking structure being included in the 12-foot max height overrun allowance. The commercial amusement inside, limited to a bowling alley, is only permitted in phase 1. And then the artificial swimming lagoon hours, the expansion of the hours is essentially 1 hour extra in the mornings at 7 a.m. and then going until 10 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and then until 12 midnight Friday through Sunday. And staff recommendation is approval, subject to an amended conceptual plan and amended conditions.
Thank you, sir. Questions, commissioners? Commissioner Carpenter.
Mr. Bate and fellow commissioners, I believe that Commissioner Housewright and Chair Shadid and I were the only people, are the only people here now who remember this case from over 3 years ago. Were you? Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to exclude you. It was an incredibly contentious case, and so this is a miracle in our time that we have that these changes are considered to be non-controversial. For those of you who don't know what the case is, but may have read about it, this is the property that's mixed use. It's going to have a crystal lagoon in the middle, and the residents are actually very much looking forward to this. And what has driven, I'm sorry, are you aware that what has basically driven this coming back to us is that some of the property that originally was not available to this project has now, the owners have been willing to sell. So that's why and it will really even up the Singleton frontage, and everything else is just basically a cleanup, some additional tweaks that have revealed themselves in the last 3 years.
Yes, I am aware of those conditions, yes.
Thank you.
We have come a long way. Commissioner Hall, followed by Commissioner Housewright.
Mr. Bates, I just want to understand exactly what's going on this property because I have no recollection of the. Is it going to be residential surrounding a artificial lagoon with a bowling alley? Bowling alley?
Yes, so it's going to be a residential mixed-use project. There's a large residential component in phase. So in phase 1, my understanding from reading the PD and talking to the applicant is it is a mix of both residential and retail uses. Phase 2, I believe, would be for purely residential. But the main phase 1, it includes the artificial swimming lagoon. And so if you read through the conditions, the way it was kind of laid out, typically phasing, I think, has more of a delineation, but in this case, it was said that the artificial swimming lagoon, it must be within 800 feet of Singleton, and so everything from the lagoon north is phase 1. So within that phase 1, you'll have residential and retail uses. I would think that just through the sort of the design and development and ideation phase, that they decided they wanted to do the bowling alley within the mixed-use mixed-use and retail portion of the site. But because that use was not specifically delineated in the original conditions, they had to add it in as commercial amusement inside, limited to a bowling alley, which prevents some of the more, let's say, intensive or noxious versions of commercial amusement inside from occurring there.
Would the bowling alley be open to the public?
That I'm not sure of if it's.
We can ask the developer.
Yeah, that would be a question for the applicant.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The case is on consent, so the applicant will not be speaking, but he was shaking his head up and down. Yes. Commissioner Housewright, followed by Commissioner Herbert.
Mr. Bate, I'm just want to get a little more educated about this parking reduction for retail. That was a little bit of a new one on me, but apparently that 15% reduction has been in the PD all along and will continue to be in the PD. That's what we're reading, right?
Yes, that was what was originally written into the PD, and there was no proposed change to that.
Okay, and so then these spaces for rideshare vehicles, I guess, would be distributed across the entire 32 acres. It's not that you're putting 7 parking spaces for rideshare in one location. I mean, I guess the PD doesn't require it one way or the other, I guess, but I guess that must be the intent, is that you could then distribute these rideshare spaces around the site.
I can't speak to the original intent of when this was, as these conditions were written, but yes, the way it is written, it does not specify where on the site that those had to be provided. It just has to be anywhere within the private property, as it were. So on the site, yes.
Commissioner Herbert?
Yeah, I'm curious. I know the area. I've driven it a while, and there's a Catholic church that resembles a prison complex. Is it still in operation? The St. Mary's Immaculate Church with the barbed wire fences all around it. Is that church still in operation?
I believe there is a church nearby that is in operation. I wasn't aware of
the barbed wire.
That didn't catch my eye, at least. No.
It catches mine every time. But no, I was just curious if there was any communication or intervention or conversation with that church or word from them.
Their applicant is shaking his head. They have reached out and communicated with them regarding the changes, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Carpenter, please.
Sorry, are you aware questions? Yes, are you aware there has been extensive outreach with the Catholic Church and school next door, and their only concern originally was for clarification on the bowling alley. It's not intended to be a freestanding bowling alley. It's just some lanes added as an amenity to the central amenity building. And also, are you aware that all of these amenities, the Crystal Lagoon and everything that's offered in the building adjacent to it, closer to Singleton, that will have restaurants, spas, the bowling, it's all completely open to the community. So the community is anticipating it as a significant addition to what's offered in that area.
Okay, and I didn't see any barbed wires in the PD, so I'm in the plan, so that's good. Thank you.
No barbed wire. Any other questions, commissioners? Okay, thank you, sir. Go to case number 6. It's going to be held, okay. Do we have a date for that, Commissioner Blair? Our next one would be 6/20. Okay, we'll hold that to June 20th. We will brief it then. We'll go to case number 7, which has come off consent.
Good morning, Chair. Can you
Good morning.
This is wonderful.
We can hear you, yes, sir.
Excellent. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Commission. Presenting this number 6, pardon me, number 7. Bear with me as I get it pulled up here. Is that visible, the group?
We can't see it. Yes, we can.
We can, okay, good.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Wonderful. Let me get it full screen for you here. And okay. You guys should be seeing 1, 2, 3. Good morning, Commission. Thank you for having me. Connor Roberts here. This case Z234123, located at 3551 Bernal. It's a zoning change, straight zoning change request from residential, that's the R5A district, to the Neighborhood Services NSA district. Applicant seeking to develop a 3,500 square foot retail building with 4 commercial units. I can see its location there. Taking a look at the surrounding zoning conditions, you see it's the R5A district on all sides, east, north, and west. There's a park property across Bernal to the south. Again, the request is to rezone the property from R5A to the NS Neighborhood Services District. It's currently a vacant site. There appears to be a building slab on site indicating there was a building at one point. And again, it is the intent to develop with a 3,500 square foot retail commercial store with 4 storefronts. Taking a look at the site, looking north on Bernal, you can see it's vacant there. This is looking west, northwest, and then taking a look back east. Bernal just there on photo right. A little bit of a development standards perspective here. So our existing conditions are in the R5A row with the proposed at the NSA row reduction in the front yard setback overall, but with a 20-foot side and rear setback adjacent to those residential properties. And compliance with this would be expected at time of site design and permitting. Just taking a look at the Fort Dallas plan, promoting balanced growth, ensuring that zoning is flexible, changing economic conditions. I think that was applicable in this case, as well as establishing a walk-to convenience to vacant site in close proximity to quite a bit of residential property, providing localized and commercial community scaled retail we felt was applicable to that goal. With that in mind, staff's recommendation is approval. I'm happy to discuss and answer any questions as best I can.
Thank you, sir. Questions, Commissioners? Commissioner Carpenter.
Can you confirm that the development pattern along Bernal and the zoning on these adjoining properties is all residential?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
No problem.
Commissioner Hall.
Mr. Roberts, when I looked at a more recent Google image of this, the properties to the east, they appear to be single-family homes, but also businesses. Did you notice that when you did your site visit? I mean, it looked like there were a lot of trucks and materials and things.
It's not something that we noticed during the site visit, Commissioner. I believe it's zoned and is, at least our observation, was used as a residential property.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Houseright.
Yes, I'd just be interested in getting some more background on why you recommend approval here. I mean, we've got a similar case in Commissioner Hall's district with massive opposition. On the surface of it, dropping a commercial use in the middle of a residential street across from a lovely park just wouldn't normally pass the test here. So what am I missing?
Well, I think it's sort of the beauty of this request and this process is that we, get to talk about that nuance. And in our perspective, sort of going back to our Forward Dallas assessment, in terms of walkable, local scale community retail and things of that nature, which is what the NS district is ultimately trying to get at. Sometimes those nestled into neighborhoods can work really well, and it can actually serve a great function for residents. It's intended to be a district that promotes local personal services and things of that nature, not something that's of a large scale, intense commercial use. And so that was the large component in terms of our assessment of this. But of course, we understand that there are, an existing building pattern in the area that should be considered as well. And so,
Commissioner Forsyth.
Has any neighborhood input been solicited on this case or received?
I'll have to lean on the applicant for that in terms of if there have been any local meetings held or things to that effect, Commissioner.
Two letters of support in the packet.
I believe the answer to your question is no, Commissioner. Commissioner Hall.
Yeah, this, looking at the report we got last night, there was only a 200-foot notification zone. and 31 notifications went out, with 2 in support and 0 in opposition, which I found very interesting because although my case is going to be a little bit different from this, we had quite a few more. We had a lot of feedback, especially negative feedback. But in this case, no.
Mr. Chair, if I may, real quick.
Please.
I'd just like to remind the body that this is the briefing, so it's still time for questions. And second, we are on item number 7, not any other item that may be on the agenda later in the day.
Thank you, sir. Apples and oranges. Yeah, it has come off consent. Apples and oranges. Every case is different. Please, Commissioner Wheeler.
With this item, I know that the notification area might be 200 feet. Was it took into consideration to have a full community meeting with the neighborhood associations in proximity, also including those within 200 feet, since there is such a public park that it will not just affect those within 200 feet of this property, but probably the general community just surrounding it?
It's a good question, Commissioner. So when we do our noticing, that's dictated by the development code in terms of its radius. It's in relation to the size of the property. So that's been our role in this on the staff side. I'll have to lean on the applicant's context in terms of if there have been any local meetings with surrounding HOAs or other sort of community groups, Commissioner.
And are you aware if that was done by the applicant?
I am not aware.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Chernock.
Do you have a sense when you look at the floor area ratios for what this, if this were to be approved, and you start applying parking regulations and floor area ratios, do you have a sense of what the building mass would actually end up being in relation to the size of the entire land?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great point, Commissioner. And what I will bring up, pardon me as I scroll through. So as part of this request, it is a general zoning change request. So the base standards, the NSA, would be applicable if this were to be approved. So of course, all use regulations, all massing and setbacks and coverage regulations of the sort would be applicable. So we're looking at our lot coverage at 40%, our parking ratios at 1 to 200. I haven't done the analysis on exactly, sort of quasi-designing the space in my mind in terms of what it would actually look like. But rest assured that the conditions that you see as part of the development standards for that NSA district would be applicable, just as they would be in any other NSA district or straight zoning district.
Do you get a sense whether, if I'm doing some shoot from the hip calculations, it would most likely be a single-story building, correct?
I would assume as much. Commissioner, just again, shooting from the hip.
Any other questions, Commissioners? Okay, thank you, sir. We'll keep going.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Case number 8.
Will also be me moving out here for a little bit in these next few. Chair, can everybody see that? Case 124?
We can.
Wonderful, thank you. This is case Z234124. It's located at 3530 Forest. It's a request for an amendment to PD 315 to allow for an expansion of a developed mini warehouse. The property is located about 750 feet east of the northeast corner of Cromwell Drive in Forest. A little bit of background for you. At this site address, 3530 Forest Lane, that's covers 3 lots, 3A, 3B, and 3C. Towards the front of the property, so along Forest, there's a mini warehouse structure. It's 3 stories. It's about 60,000 square feet. To the rear, which abuts residential property to the south, is an office use that's, again, 3 stories and 70,000 square feet. So this request is an expansion of that front portion, that mini warehouse structure, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. There was a condition in the PD for the residential proximity slope for that northern half of the property that would be tweaked a little bit with this case. The reason for that being, and I'll show you here in a second. Can you see my cursor? Can everybody see my cursor?
Yes, we can.
Okay, wonderful. So the property to the west is developed with the church, is a residential zoning, which would trigger a residential proximity slope for this property. So the area of request really, or the interest is right here in developing this property and expanding this use to the west. So that's why that tweak is proposed. It's not intended to alter any structure or residential proximity slope to the south of this property. Just wanted to make sure that was clear. Again, there's a little bit of a close-up. We can, of course, always come back and speak to it. Looking at surrounding uses, similar intensity uses along Forest, as one might expect with the church to the west, retail establishments to the east, that single-family development just to the south of this property. Taking a look at the site, this is on Forest looking west, looking up at the existing 3-story mini warehouse structure, taking a look at the vacancy of that. This is where sort of this cavity would be filled as part of this request with mini warehouse structure if this were to be approved. Again, looking at it here from the southeast, the church just off to the right of the photo. And then again, back to the church property. Again, here's that site plan comparison. The existing green being the vacant area or the specific area of impact. And then on the proposed site plan to the right, you can see that being filled in with a 3-story mini warehouse structure. No changes or anything to the property to the south, or the portion of the property to the south, the existing office building. With that, staff does recommend approval of this due to its continuity of use as something someone might expect along Forest, subject to the amended development plan and amending conditions. But with that, answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Questions, commissioners? No questions. We'll keep going to case number 9.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just pull it up for us. This is case Z234155. That's a renewal of SUP 2359, which allows for the sale of alcoholic beverages in conjunction with a general merchandise or food store less than 3,500 square feet. It's located at the southwest corner of South Buckner and Forney Road. It's in the D1 overlay and approximately 26,000, almost 27,000 square feet. I can see its location there. Taking a look at its surrounding uses, auto-centric uses, whether it's auto body shops, storage in the surrounding area with the base zoning of LI, vacant parcels to the south, and some flex office uses. Again, the purpose is for the continuation of the sale of alcoholic beverages with the general merchandise food store less than 3,500 square feet. There is an active C-store registration on site. The request is for a renewal for a 5-year period. Taking a look at the site here during our site visit, zoning sign nice and visible. Taking a look south, and then taking a look at the condition on site. Everything seemed to be in good condition. It's a site plan in case we need to speak to it. A little bit larger there. Seeing the site configuration with a canopy and existing building. Taking a look at the recommended conditions with a time limit, again, for 5 years, if this were to be approved. Running the crime statistics, just wanted to provide that. It should be provided in your report for review in case you're interested in it. And with that, staff's recommendation is approval.
Thank you, sir. Questions, commissioners? No questions. We'll go to case number 10.
Wonderful. This cases. Last one for me this morning to brief. Here. Case 234180. That's located at 2605 Elm Street. That's a request for renewal of SCP 2150, which allows for a bar, lounge, or tavern, as well as an inside commercial amusement limited to a live music venue. There's no requested changes to the existing site plan or the conditions beyond the time period. It's located at the northeast corner of the intersection of Elm and Good Latimer, over in Council District number 2. It's located within Tract A of PD 269. That's the Deep Ellum near East Side District. It is within the downtown demolition overlay, and as well as the Lovefield Height overlay. See its location there, just east of downtown, on the hard corner of Good Latimer and Elm. Some aerial imagery there, that structure. Taking a look at surrounding uses, Tract A of the same PD, east of Good Latimer, Tract B on the west side, but is surrounded with either undeveloped to the north or lively restaurant type uses throughout, some bar lounges and taverns or a hotel, and some other general merchandise establishments. Taking a look at the establishment on Elm looking north, taking a look at the corner improvements, and then taking a look back at it on the northeast angle. Again, no changes to the approved site plan. And with that, staff does recommend approval for the 5-year period, subject to the site planning conditions.
Questions on this one, commissioners? Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes, I may not have seen it in the flurry of emails that we have gotten recently, but normally on these cases for renewals of SUPs in Deep Ellum, we get some kind of communication from the Deep Ellum Foundation. Do you know if they have expressed an opinion on this?
I'm not aware of that directly, Commissioner.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hampton.
Thank you. Mr. Roberts, excuse me, are you aware that the applicant has been in touch as have I with the Deep Ellum Foundation, as Commissioner Carpenter has noted?
I am not aware.
You have not received that? Okay, thank you.
Yes, not to my knowledge.
We'll be sure that's included in the record. Thank you.
Colleagues, any other questions? Is this one off consent, Commissioner Hampton? No? Okay. My notes are wrong. All right, we're to our under advisement cases. Are there any ones that need to be updated? Do you need case number 11 updated?
No, unless there's anyone around the horseshoe who's not aware of this case, but I'm okay with not having it updated.
I know, I'm well aware of it. All right.
To say something here.
Commissioner Chernock, do we need an update on number 12? Are you all right? I don't know. Okay. Commissioner Hall, do you want an update on 13? Hold on. I'm sorry. Thought I heard it.
Just circling back to 12, that was held over because there was some communication that needed to happen between the applicant and the community, the residential community that was behind this property, and that's happened. So that's the latest update.
Okay. Great. Commissioner Hall, did you want an update on 13?
Yes, thank you.
I heard it's getting held. Do we need an update still?
Just a quick update. We're going to, I want to put it under advisement until August 11.
Great.
And that will allow us to have a community meeting next week and to get some organization and stuff done for the future.
And I understand that 14 is also being held. Is that correct?
Yes, both the applicant and the community want it held till June 20th.
Perfect. That should be a fun day. All right, we're now to case number 15, Mr. Pepe.
You guys are making great pace. This is Z223225. And it's located off of Stemmons. And it's an application for a plan development district for mixed use 1, MU1 mixed use district uses and standards and a contractor's maintenance yard use with consideration for a CS commercial service district on properties owned in IR industrial research district. And it's about 1.59 acres. And the purpose of the request is to allow modified development standards primarily related to uses, setbacks, floor area ratio, height, lot coverage, landscaping, parking, and loading, sidewalks, and required screening to develop the site with contractors' maintenance yard use. Here's the site as it exists today. And here's the surrounding uses. There's a Trinity Branchway to the east. There's single family to the east. There's light industrial with outside storage to the southeast. There's an industrial inside use to the south across Burgess. There's an undeveloped property to the southwest, warehouse, an office showroom warehouse to the west with a vehicle engine repair and maintenance. And it's currently IR Industrial Research District. It's developed with a building with a CO for a warehouse, an office, and another CO for a different building with a warehouse. They're requesting a PD with MU1 base, but allows the contractor maintenance yard, modifies some development standards. City code defines a contractor's maintenance yard as a facility for the storage and maintenance of contractor supplies and operational equipment. And the PD has a custom definition that defines it as a facility for the storage and maintenance of a contractor's facility and operational equipment, outside storage, offices, greenhouse, warehouse uses associated with the contractor's maintenance yard. Generally, the proposed district is built around the proposal only for that contractor's maintenance yard use and authorizing the built condition on the ground today through the development standards. And staff recommends against single property, single purpose plan development district. The proposed district use can be accommodated in a CS district, which would still be a downzoning on the property. Let me see the site. So we're on Gretna. Go a little bit down on Burgess, looking north. Looking north, it's the newer structure that you see on the left. And then back on Gretna, moving up Gretna, looking east. It's the warehouse building, looking east, moving up. That's the office building as it exists today, and the associated parking on the north side. And looking around, it's an office showroom warehouse that's across Gretna, vehicle repair and maintenance for the the west. Moving south, undeveloped property, across the street, the industrial use, manufacturing use. And the development plan, as is proposed, has these two buildings that permit the use, as well as some outdoor storage areas. Also has the required landscaping on it, or the requested landscaping on it. A little better view. They do propose future buildings in the, southeast portion of the site, but the other buildings, the ones shown in dark black, are those that exist today. So again, their requested definition would modify their definition. Staff doesn't see it as necessary if you do approve a PD. Use the base definition of contractor's maintenance yard. The requested exemptions to Article 13. The only landscaping requirements for the use would be as follows. I won't list all of them, but among other things, they exempt parking lot trees, some regards of the street buffer zones. They change how those work a little bit. Staff recommends just meeting base landscaping. If they have certain conditions built today, that's okay. They be either non-conforming or they'd only trigger Article 13 if they do significant changes to the pervious surface or buildings or things like that. They requested exemptions to sidewalks. There's also some unclear language in there, so staff recommends what we typically would for sidewalks, which is 6 foot width of unobstructed width on all the frontages, as well as some improved crossings. And that would apply for any development. The A bullet that you see and the A that we're recommending, those are actually just across the board conditions in the document. But all told, staff recommendation is approval of an CS commercial service district in lieu of that new plan development district. And we're here for questions.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Carpenter.
Mr. Pepe, I know you and I have had extensive exchanges about this week, but I know I need to go through it for the benefit of the commissioners. You know, some information that I have that Mr. Pepe is not aware of is that this area is rapidly effecting a transition to a mixed-use environment. It's a bit northwest of the design district. There are a number of parcels in play right now where people are proposing significant residential components. So what we're trying to do with this, you know, the tools I have to work with are straight zoning with deed restrictions, and PDs. So, you know, with this particular proposed use, I mean, it's not a proposed use, it's a use that's actually on the ground, and as we received some, you know, communications, it's a desired member of the community here. What we're attempting to do here through the PD is to affect a transition to mixed-use zoning, where all those mixed-use zoning regulations will apply to any future redevelopment of the use. But we're attempting to make this particular use, you know, be allowed by right, but prevent anything more intrusive from going in. And the recommendation to change to a straight CS, while I understand it on the surface, it would allow, it would not go along with the change in character in the area. So I'll stop there. But yes, are you aware of all that?
I was going to ask. I am.
And are you also aware that we are going to, Mr. Reeves is here, we're going to present, we're going to follow staff's recommendations that you made on loading and sidewalks with one small change. So
yes,
you know,
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners? Thank you very much, Mr. Pepe. Do we have anything for the authorization of hearing? Oh, pardon me. See, I'm already getting ahead of myself, Commissioner Blair. Item number 16 is getting held under advisement to July 11th.
Are we going to have a meeting on July 11th, since July 4th it's usually first and third, but the first one is the 4th, so we're going to have it on July 11th?
I think it is, yep.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll call it July 11th.
July 11th. We'll brief it then. That takes us to the authorization of a hearing. Is there anything that we need to be briefed on that? No? Any questions, commissioners, on either of those two items, 33 or 34? Commissioner Housewright?
Yeah, let me figure out whether it's 33 or 34. I was going to ask the question this afternoon, but I'll just ask it now. Yeah, 33. 33 is just a big global sort of hearing, as I understand it. And so I was just kind of curious, because it's the entire city. It's not just a specific site or a specific neighborhood or a specific district. It spans the entire city, the way I read this. And I don't know who I'm asking the question to, but what's broken? What are we trying to fix here? I'm curious why this is being proposed.
This is mine.
Yeah.
Commercial vehicle park. Oh, I'm sorry. I think you guys can all hear me. The opportunity continuously becoming requested for office, for commercial vehicle parking, heavy equipment machinery, warehousing to be placed in areas throughout the city, well, specifically in District 3, District 8, and District 6, that are causing either environmental inequities when it comes down to residential proximity. And the goal is to, since there are areas that are becoming logistic areas, that they be placed there by right. If they are in areas that are abutting residential or places that they should not be, then if the land is already zoned inappropriately, then they would need an SUP. So it would still come before this body to review, instead of having something intrusive automatically having the right to cause unsafe developments in communities.
But the logical conclusion of this, would it not be downzoning?
No, because it's still there. It just means it comes to us, and we have the right to look at each case and say, maybe so for this with some modifications, and maybe not for those that are going to just cause unsafe habits or unsafe traffic in areas that should not be.
Commissioners,
i.e., like if you're
Mr. Chair, if I
Mr.
can,
Moore has-
I would just like to remind the body that this is, the actual item is to authorize the hearing for ZOAC to consider a potential host of things. There's nothing concrete, there's not necessarily any down.
Understood, Mr. Moore, but we routinely, we authorize these hearings time and time again with no real thought to the investment of time and resources required by the
Mr.
city
Chair,
and the community.
I
So
think we're getting into debating the merits of this, which is probably most appropriate for the public hearing.
Yeah.
I
Okay, but I would maintain it's appropriate to discuss this at some point, and that just a rollover on every authorized hearing is not good business for this commission. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take that item up again for, we're happy to debate it this afternoon, Commissioners. At this moment, it was just for informational purposes, briefing. We will and can debate it this afternoon. And with that, are there any other questions, Commissioners? It is 10:31, and that concludes the briefing of the Dallas City Planning Commission. Commissioner, enjoy your long lunch.